Hi there everyone, my name is Matt Heimlich and welcome to part 2 of my hair basics training. Now last time when we left off I had shown you the basic particle settings in here, what all these do. Today we're going to jump into the particle editing mode and cover some of the more advanced styling techniques for your characters. Just like last time, I'm starting here with this base head. The only difference is that I've already gone ahead and created the emitting mesh underneath. So we'll go ahead and jump into that, add a particle system, make it hair, make it advanced. And we're going to turn down the normal a little bit. What we're going to be working on today is kind of like I guess a crew cut haircut, because that's one of the most common haircuts that people use on their characters. The principles carry over to basically any kind of hair type, long hair, fur, short hair like this, and anything in between. So what I show you today should carry over pretty well into any other situation that you should need to be combing for. So that's pretty much all we're going to touch in here for right now. I'm going to turn off random, and I'm going to turn off even distribution, just to keep everything symmetrical so that we can only have to comb one side of the head but get the same results on the other side. And then at the end we can turn off the x-axis mirror and do some stuff to make it look like it's not just a mirror image. But yeah, for right now I think that's all we're going to do over here. Now we're going to jump into particle edit mode, which is, you can get to it just from this little drop down here. Okay. Now we're going to jump into particle mode. Press T to open up this panel over here where you can get at all your combing options. First thing I'm going to do is run through these, tell you what everything does, and then we'll go through some of the other options that you have down here. Obviously the brush is how you're going to be styling your hair most of the time. Down here, as I pointed out in a little caption in my last video, down here you can choose between 3 different display types for hair. You can do, this is path edit mode, which basically just shows the hair as you see it in the viewport. There is the control point editing mode, which shows a certain number of control points for every hair, and the number of control points is equal to the number of segments you set over here before you jumped into particle mode. And you can also pick endpoint mode, which allows you to just control the endpoints, which is useful for, when you want to comb individual hairs, you can select an individual one, and any comb you pick will only affect that. You can also hit G and grab individual hairs and control them this way, and it's kind of like, I don't know, moving a rope or something. That can be useful for moving hairs out of the way from intersections and stuff like that. We are going to stick to the control point editing mode, maybe for a couple changes we'll use this display mode. So let's go through here. I showed a little bit of the comb in the last video. You can control the size of that with F. Basically works just like you would expect it to. Combs the hair. Nothing too crazy about that. X-axis mirror, we'll make it, oh, I forgot to show that to make everything truly x-axis mirrored, especially if your mesh might be a little bit off of symmetry, if you've sculpted on a higher level or something, what you can do is hit A, go down to particle, hit mirror, and then you can W and remove doubles to get rid of any double particles that may have created. And now you have a truly symmetrical mesh that you can comb and do all kinds of fun stuff with. Alright, smooth, I will show you here. If we comb some crazy pattern into the hair that you realize, hey, I don't want my hair to look like that, you can go to smooth, and that'll kind of smooth everything between the hairs back to a more manageable level. It won't turn it back to its original level, it'll just kind of smooth between whatever is within your circle of influence there. The add will not add length, because that will be under the length here, but you'll actually add individual particles. which can be useful if you didn't set enough or in the beginning when you set your emission up. You can control the radius of your ad here, and you can control the count. So you can say every time you click you want to add 10 hairs to wherever you're clicking. Yeah, that's the ad length here. You can use to either grow your hairs or shrink your hairs as you see fit, because obviously setting it up with just the normal value here, you have a bunch of equally length hairs, and obviously that's not how people's hair is cut. You can control the radius here with the shortcut is F, but you can also control it here. And you control the strength of the add and the grow and shrink right here. Next we'll move on to puff. Basically what puff does is it returns your hairs to their original position from wherever they are. It won't restore length or anything like that, but as long as you're drawing over the hairs, it will continue to try and push them back to where they started. Cut is a very useful one. Obviously, with the length, you don't have as much control over what you're doing, but with cut, you can say, go to the front view and drag the mouse across as you click, and it will cut your hairs to wherever the center of that is. You should note that this doesn't remove segments. This will keep the same number of segments, just reduces the length of the hairs. And weight is something that it's a little more advanced of a control. But basically what it does, I believe, is change the weight of the individual hairs when you start running simulations on them. So how much they're affected by gravity, spring, and things like that. So what we're going to do is go ahead and go back to object mode, remove that, add a new one, because that was all messed up. We're going to start over. We're going to take this back down to 0.2, maybe a little lower. Yeah, it seems good. Alright, I'm going to hop into particle mode. Go back to comb, and let's take a look what we got here. Now, obviously, this is a little big for sideburns. This is wider than you'd want normal sideburns to be, probably. And what you can do in a case like that, where you've already extracted an emitting mesh, but you've got some places like down here. I probably won't want hair coming out all the way into the neck, and obviously right here the sideburns are a little wide. What you can do is go into edit mode and actually edit your mesh to a place where everything's coming out of a more reasonable area, and that won't kill your particle setup or anything. You're definitely able to edit your mesh after you've gone to the point. Aside from deleting vertices, I find that deleting vertices or faces or anything like that does mess up the way your particle system is calculated, but moving everything around shouldn't cause you any major headaches. So if we go back, you can see that it's not growing into the neck, and it's not growing down into the or onto the side of the face here in the sideburns. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to use the comb and length, and we're going to comb a nice little haircut in here. So let's go to length, let's get it on shrink, and let's shrink these sideburns down, because obviously he's not going to be, at least this character is not going to be like a Hasidic Jew or Elvis. So we're going to, sorry, we have to mirror them again. Alright, so like I said, we're going to shrink these down. Leave them a little longer than you think you want them to be, because when you comb, they will push up into the head and stuff like that. I'm going to shrink down in the back, around the side. Yeah, and it helps to always be rotating your viewport as you're doing length and combing, because you know, what you see from the front or the side might look completely wrong from like a 3/4 view. So we'll go in and kind of shorten all this up. We're going to put like a little cowlick on the top, so we'll leave that a little long from the front view, and then we can go to the side view and, you know, shorten the places where that's not applicable. So I'm going to go through, shorten it up around the back. Let's look at the 3/4. Yeah, you can see 3/4 view, you've got some stuff sticking out on the extremities of the head that isn't exactly right. And this might be easier with the cut brush as well, but I like the control that the length brush gives a little bit more, and the little variations you get where everything isn't exactly the same length definitely helps to add some character, I think. So we're going to grab this front here. These hairs will bring back a little bit. Front 3/4, we can pull those back. Okay, I'm liking the way that looks so far. Alright, so now we can start the actual combing. Sideburns tend to I forgot to cover the rest of this stuff in here. Options are particles, soft body, or cloth. We're not going to cover soft body or cloth right now because those are a completely different subject. Deflect emitter, what that does is while you're combing, it'll try and keep the hairs above whatever your emitting surface is. Because ours is a little bit below the actual surface that we're going to see, we're going to put that at 0.5. That should be plenty. Here under keep, there are lengths, root, and X mirror. Keep lengths will try and keep hairs the same length as you're combing them. Without that, you'll comb and hairs will get longer or shorter, and that's not something you always want. Keep the root will keep the root attached to the emitter. It's pretty rare that you want to turn that off. And X mirror obviously mirrors what you're doing on each side of the head. The draw steps here is similar to the draw steps here in the display. For short hair, you really don't need that much. Probably no more than 3 or 4, depending on any crazy stuff you might do to the hair. If it's short, but it's also like frizzy hair, you might want to turn that up to get some frizz. But if it's short and relatively straight like this, you can keep it at relatively low steps. We're going to turn it up to 2 for our purposes. Alright, so let's get started with the combing. Sideburns, kind of comb up a little bit, and then comb back. Alright, now these are kind of getting in the way while we're trying to work up here, so what we can do is we can go into the endpoint edit mode, press C for paint select, select all these back here, and just press H to hide them. And now we won't be able to control those hairs. So now we can comb these without interfering with the rest of the head. And I find it's better to do little quick clicks than clicking and dragging, because that can pull hairs under the skin really quickly. I'm going to puff these out a little bit because they started to fall under the head. Go back to comb and do little quick strokes to get it back to where we want it. And we're going to go back to this edit mode as well, just because I prefer to see where all the control points are. Alright, now we're going to kind of just comb it the way that hair falls on the head. Most people have a little main part back here on the back of their head, so in front of that we're going to comb forward, and behind that we're going to comb backwards. We can unhide those particles now because we are done working, for now at least, on the side end. So we're going to comb everything down and turn my strength down just a little bit to like 0.7. So yeah, from here it's basically just combing the way that hair flows on the head. If you're not aware of how that goes, it's, you know, you can just look in the mirror or look up some reference on Google, stare awkwardly at a family member until they ask what you're doing, but it's pretty self-explanatory, and it's again one of those things that you get a hang for the more that you do some character work. Alright, from the front we've got this hair kind of coming up to the top of the head, and in the front we're going to style up this cowlick type thing. Kind of comb it into position from the side, maybe comb it back a little bit. Yeah, don't be afraid to change your zoom level as you're working, because you get a lot more control when you're closer up or if you have a smaller panel. But for now we're just doing basic strokes. And again, this isn't going to be a super professional combing job, just enough to get us into the second part where I'm going to cover materials and whatnot. We just want something that looks decent to work on while we're doing that. Alright, so get everything combed in a decent way that at least approximates the way that hair flows on a head. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good for now. 1,000 control points is way more than, or control hairs is way more than enough for this type of hair. And obviously all these patches here will be filled in by children hairs when we turn those on. But for right now, I think this is looking pretty good. We'll see if we have any errors, and we can come back and fix those if we need to afterwards. If you have any, like, obviously extraneous hairs, like this one here is just kind of on its own, being its own guy, you can delete those just by selecting one point on them. So we'll select these two and just hit X particle, and those will go away, and we no longer have to worry about this. Alright, so let's go back to object mode and see what we're working with. Alright, it looks like a pretty decent setup for a hair there. Yeah, from here we can go down to children, turn on interpolated, and you can start to get a decent idea of what our hair is going to look like here. I'm not sure I like this little area right here, so what we're going to do is grab this and kind of pull it back a little bit. And maybe pull this, oh, not hide, pull this one out a little bit instead. Alright, you can see on this side it's not doing the same thing because I neglected to turn on X-axis mirroring while I was changing that up. So we will grab that, kind of move it up there, and see what we get. Let's Looks like it might need to be pulled out a little bit closer to the surface. Alright. I'm going to turn off Xmirror on the mesh itself so we can try and get that sorted out. Alright, that's looking okay there. Okay, now let's move down into children and get that set up. Now, you want to keep in mind when you're setting your number of children, how many hairs actual humans have on their head. Now, it differs between hair color normally. Blonde people tend to have about, on average, 120,000 hairs on their head. Brunettes and darker hair have somewhere between 100 and 108,000. And redheads have somewhere around 90,000 hairs on their head. Now the ones with the lower numbers, they make up for it by having actual thicker hairs. But that will come into play when we are doing material settings. So we have 1,000 control hairs. This guy's going to be kind of, I don't know, dirty blonde, maybe brown hair kind of guy. So we're going to have somewhere between 100 and 108,000. So if we have 1,000 hairs, that means that when we render, we're going to want 108 for every guiding hair. And we're going to go ahead and set the display to 50 just so we can kind of get an idea of what the hair is looking like on the head. Alright, as you can see, it's not looking half bad. We can go back and turn the, go back to particle mode. I'm going to turn on children so we can kind of see what we're doing. And in any areas like this where you can see a little bald spot, you can just comb it out a little bit so that that gets covered up. I don't see any other glaring issues. Alright, so let's go back to object mode, check one more time to see if there's anything glaringly wrong with the hair. And obviously there's, you know, some craziness going on, and like I said, this isn't a professional combing job on a character that you were going to use for a short film or something like that. You obviously spend a lot more time doing this step here, but for tutorial purposes, you don't want to sit here and watch me comb for 2 hours. So we're just going to go to object mode and call that good enough for our purposes. So yeah, we can give it a little bit of parting, 0.1, just so hairs kind of follow their directions a little bit better. We'll give it maybe a tiny little bit of roughness, 0.05. Even that I think might be a little too much, 0.025. That looks pretty good, just to give it some interesting shape. We'll turn down the length to like 0.8, and then we'll turn the threshold up so a few other hairs reach that maximum. We'll turn the threshold to like 0.4. So about 40% of the hairs are at their longest point. And that gives a good look of, someone who got their hair cut maybe a week or two ago. And yeah, I like the way that looks for right now. We're going to go ahead and save this here. And I will see you in the next video where we will cover setting up materials for the Blender internal renderer. Thank you very much. I hope this was helpful for you. And if you like this tutorial, you can like and subscribe, and I will be sure to make more. In the comments, leave me any tips for what I could be doing better, tips for what I am doing well already, and I will see you soon. Thanks.